Well, hello and welcome to D&D with High School Students presents the Medusas. We are back, and yes, folks, this is episode 20. Thank you for your point of clarification, friends. I'd like to raise a toast to everyone out there surviving through the quarantine. From us to you, cheers. May your approaching weekend be relaxing, good, positive, who knows. Anyway, it's an odd patch of weather that we've run into here in Chicagoland. It was cold, then it was rainy, and now it's hot outside and damp. I do not like it, not one little bit. So, Medusas, we had quite a narrative moment in our last episode. Some things that have been, Crawford, you have to close the studio door. The echo is killing me. I feel like there's another me inside of my brain who's talking the words out of my mouth, but 1 second after everything that I say. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. No, it's not better. Close the studio door. So we had a narrative moment, and there were things about Bullstrong that have been hidden for this entire season. Things that were even foreshadowed. For example, in an episode way back, midway through the season, Areia tried to have a subtle conversation with Bullstrong, and he seemed aloof. The studio door. Oh my God. Excuse me while I go stab Carafa, everybody.
Rest in peace, David Carafa.
We have an F in the chat.
So, Bullstrong seemed oblivious to whatever Areia was trying to discuss, and so she took that as him being aloof. Yes? Is that a fair assessment, Jordan?
Yes.
And so the Medusas moved on. Well, lo and behold, they surpass the threshold of the verge between Kabul Kailish and the Mantirum. They find safety and sanctuary amidst the Iron Mountain tribe, and upon awakening from a nice long rest, discovered some very interesting things on the last episode. So we will pick up. You guys had this very crazy narrative moment where you met Varna, who you later discovered was actually Bullstrong's wife. Bullstrong, now having been revealed as an amnesiac. And upon further close investigation and medicinal inspection, you found an object, a foreign metal object lodged in his skull that appears to have been there long enough that scar tissue has grown up around it. Extracting it could be fatal. And so you reached out to some of the elders who informed you that the shaman and a few of the other elders had gone to the upper peak of the White Crest to seek the oracle, which is part of their seasonal procedure to determine where it would be most fortuitous to move their tribe to for their next season. But that upon returning that they would summon you. So you guys have a few hours before they return to the camp. So what do any of you need to or want to do? And just to be clear for all of you and for our fans, who is currently in possession of the milk of Vusake?
I
Capella
have that.
is.
Yes.
Okay. So each one of you, you have a little bit of time. Is there anything specific that you want or need to do? No?
I don't think there's
so.
anything that we
Did
really
you
need to do,
guys-
right?
Did you guys ever you finished your detecting magic, the thing you were doing with the treasure?
Yes.
And did we identify what those things were?
Yes. The wand was magical. The arrow was not magical. The egg was not magical, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yes.
So now you both know that there are means by which you can further investigate these things, one of which would be using a spell such as Identify. But you could, if you had a reasonable amount of time and access to a decent library, you could probably do research to discover more. You feel like if you spent enough time studying the wand, you could probably attune to it and discover its properties as well. But that would take, you feel like at the least, it would take like a few hours for one of you to do that.
I mean, we have a few hours, right?
Yes,
I do.
you do.
Well, who would want to use the wand?
Well, Amity's already attuned to the fire staff, so
Yeah.
True.
probably either you or Magnus, I would assume. You seem to be a little more familiar with that kind of thing.
True. What do you think, Magnus? Do you want the
Magnus,
wand?
what is your Arcana, Magnus?
Aren't you an arcane trickster?
I am. So, my Arcana is 6.
Yeah, so that's an option.
Yeah, you could always attune to it and see what it does.
Okay. Okay with that.
Okay. All right. So I know how you're going to be spending a few hours. I want you to make a Arcana check and let me know what the result is.
That's 22.
Wow. Okay. After a few hours of studying this thing and ruminating upon what you know and kind of getting to become familiar with it, you sense that this is, in fact, a wand of magic missiles.
Ooh.
You believe it has a certain number of charges each day that will allow you to cast magic missile. And after your next attunement period, short rest with it, you should be able to identify on a daily basis how many charges it has. And it can kind of restore the number of charges that it has on a daily basis at a rate of like half of its potential. So you'll uncover more about it, but you are certain after studying it and attuning to it for several hours that this is a wand of magic missiles.
Awesome.
Okay, anyone else doing anything during this 3-hour period? No? Moving on.
Would I know if Goliath cultures, like, if they have the same kind of people, like, if they have a section of people that work with their kind of animals, like, do they farm, or is that not something that they, or would I not?
This specific tribe is more of a hunter-gatherer tribe. They will do some degree of, I don't really even want to call it farming, but like they'll move seasonally to where wild fruits and vegetables grow to gather. And they even do some like preserving of some of those things, like drying fruits and stuff, and making preserves. But they don't really farm in the traditional sense.
All right. Then I don't think they'd have quite what I was looking for, so I'll just stay.
Okay. So a few hours go by, and a younger tribe member comes over to your tent area and comes up to you, Areia, and explains that the shaman and the elders have returned from the White Peak, and they've been told about your quandary, and they said for you and Bullstrong to come to their tent.
Okay. So I'll go get Bullstrong, and then we'll go over there.
Okay.
Are
You
we
guys
just
make
gonna
your way
talk?
through. Yeah. You make your way through camp, and there's a rather large kind of central tent. And this is, you know that this is like a common tent where elders meet. And there's, these huge tusks from elephants that like kind of create an archway to the main entrance flaps. So you guys go in, and you're familiar with the etiquette specifically. So as you go in, you guys remove your boots and set them off to the side. And there's like a bowl of water, which you cleanse your hands in, and then you enter the tent. And there's 6 elders seated in kind of a semicircular formation. And at the center of that cluster of elders is the shaman. Now, the shaman is an older male Goliath who is effectively, is like a druid. Okay, he's like a higher level druid. And Areia, you recognize this shaman. He's been the shaman for your tribe for 12 years. Like, and he's middle-aged, like he's in his 50s. So he had been, a long surviving hunter, and then, became one of the elders, and then became the shaman. And he's held that position for a long time. And you know him to be both wise and skilled as well, having studied actual medicine and like nature, and his knowledge of flora and fauna is pretty extensive. So he sees you guys, and he beckons for you to approach. And he gestures to 2 folded blankets where you guys can sit. And the shaman looks at Bullstrong, and then he looks back at you, and he says, "I have been told that you have returned to the tribe and brought Bullstrong back. I see that he is not a ghost. So, can you explain how it is that you came to find him when he was thought to be dead?"
Well, when I left, I did not see him for a long time, but then further south, we ran into each other again, and he seemed to not know who I was, and I thought that he was just playing aloof for a long time, but he has something in his skull, and I like turn him to point at the thing in his head, and it seemed to have erased his memories. He can't remember the tribe or me or his wife.
He looks at Bullstrong for a while, and then he stands up slowly, and he walks over towards your side of where you guys are sitting. And you notice that he kind of leans in closely and very gently kind of pulls back some of Bullstrong's, ear, and is like looking at this thing sticking out. And he's kind of poking around at it. Does it cause you pain? He asks you.
Sometimes. I mean, I think only really when it gets cold.
What about light? Do you find yourself sensitive to light? And he grabs a stone out of one of his pouches and he holds it in his hand. And when he opens his hand, the stone emits a bright light, like the whole tent is lit up. Does this bother you?
I don't think so. I guess not.
And he puts it back in his pocket, extinguishing the light. I believe that I will need some time to inspect this. And the proper tools. But I also believe that it might be wise for us to prepare some healing magics should the removal of this thing go wrong, so that Bullstrong does not die.
Yeah,
I'd
like that.
have something that I can handle that. I have something that will keep him safe during the procedure.
Yes. Yes. I too think it might be wise for one of my fellow elders to, just as a precaution, to prepare the ritual for the healing spirits. Are you familiar with it?
I've heard of it, yes.
He goes, it is dusk and it is too late and there is not enough light to do this now. You will return here tomorrow in the morning. And for now, sleep carefully. That is all. And he nods to you, and you notice like that you know that cue is for like you guys to leave. When you hear like an elder of your tribe say like that is all, like that means you leave. So you guys get up, you leave, you walk back to your tent. It is evening. Once again, you were invited to participate in feast. And you guys join the tribe. You notice that the feast this night is a little more like not solemn, but it's not quite as much of a rave as it was the previous night. And you think part of that is because the elders have kind of returned. So there's a feast, there's still music and dancing and celebration, but it kind of dies down earlier. Like you notice at a certain point, once the elders like get up and go off to their respective tents, like things die down quite a bit. So you guys go back to your sleeping quarters, your tents. You sleep, you get a full rest. The next morning, everybody's rested, spells, etc. And in the morning, you go back to the Shamans Tent, and you see him and 4 of the other elders. They're there. They have like blankets full of stuff and pouches and herbs and stuff, and they beckon for you to follow. And they go to the north of the camp, and you see that like there's a spot where there's a little creek that runs through the valley, and there's like basically like a stone table. Like there's like 2 boulders and then like a flat stone that kind of goes across it. They go to the stone table. One of them like fills a bucket with fresh water. Just kind of start preparing kind of cleaning up the table. And the shaman gestures for you, Bullstrong, to strip down and get into the stream and bathe yourself, and then to lay down on the slab.
Chester did that? Dang, all right. I'll just get
So
naked, I
while
guess.
you're doing that, there's two more of them that are like, they lay out like a blanket and they put like these different herbs down and, you know, bandages, and they lay out like all these like tools, basically. Like you see like iron, like almost like pliers, basically, like tweezers, large tweezers. And then you see some bladed things, like really small bladed things, and some gauze. And there's ointments and all this stuff. Basically, they're like laying out all the preparations. So you get up after bathing, you get onto the slab, and one of the elders like puts like a blanket underneath your head and turns you to the side so that the shaman can better see your wounded area. And the shaman, basically, he has like a headband on. It's like a ritual, you know, headdress kind of thing. It's like a leather strap, and it's got different kind of gemstones embedded into it. And he touches like the middle gemstone, and that same bright light that appeared before now appears. And he looks to you, Areia, and he's like, "Be prepared for your magic." And then he points to his assistants.
How long do you think this might take?
I am going to try to cut away some of the scar tissue that has grown up around this wound, and then slowly and carefully begin to examine whether or not this can be extracted safely.
Okay, well, let me know if you're going to do something that might
Yes.
injure him very badly.
I will let you know when I am ready
Before
to
you-
begin the extraction.
Okay.
So he beckons, and his assistants like bring over tools, and he begins kind of doing like basic like prep, like shaving the area around the wound, and then at a certain point he puts some salve down, and there's like a tingling sensation around the wound as the salve starts to kick in, and then he begins to basically cut away at the scar tissue. Now, what is your constitution?
It is 14.
Bullstrong?
14.
Okay, so it hurts. He's like cutting your skin off, and you don't have any painkillers. Like the equivalent of like a minor local anesthetic, but you're strong enough to just kind of go with it. So that process takes like 10 minutes. And even though it's scar tissue, there's still like a lot of blood. So like he's like blotting up blood and passing the, you know, stuff over. And then he kind of gets to a point where he's examining it, and he takes like the large tweezer things, and he kind of wiggles it a little bit and kind of testing out how much give there is. And he looks to you, Areia, and he's like, "I am going to begin the extraction. Prepare your magics."
All right.
What do you do?
I am going to touch Bullstrong and cast Death Ward at 4th level, which for the next 8 hours, if you would drop to 0 hit points as a result of damage, you instead will only drop to 1 hit point, and then the spell ends. And also, if you're subjected to an effect that would kill you instantaneously without dealing damage, the effect is negated and the spell ends for 8 hours.
Wow. Well, let the rolls begin.
Oh, jeez.
So is this like a public event? Is this just something where we're all just like hanging out watching Bullstrong brain surgery?
No, I think
It's like those
So-
autopsies that they do in front of an audience.
Yeah, so like the rest of you guys, if you want to be there, can be there. But nobody else from the tribe is there. It's literally like the shaman, his like elders who are assisting him, and then there's one elder who's like in deep meditation on a blanket doing some ritual, and there's like incense burning, and he's got like these components, and he's just kind of like watching the shaman waiting. So something strange happens. So he begins to pull this thing out, and Bullstrong, it's like you're shocked by electricity. But it's not electricity. It's like an electrical storm in your brain. And in that electrical storm of like flashing, and by the way, pain, this hurts, like excruciating migraine times 10 level hurt. While this is happening, you see flashes of images and things happening. And then it all goes away and it stops. What everybody else saw and heard was like the shaman go like this, like move this thing a millimeter, and you hear Bullstrong scream. And then like the shaman backed away and Bullstrong stops.
Are you okay?
No! I got electrocuted on the inside of my head.
Well, I thought Areia just casted the spell, right? So you should be fine.
It hurts
Yes.
a lot.
You should be fine, but you might. It doesn't protect you from pain, but I can still.
He moves
heal
in
you.
again, and this time he kind of like he kind of like tilts your head back a little bit and kind of puts pressure down while he's doing it, and then he starts to wiggle and gently pull again. For a few seconds, you feel this thing like coming out, just a couple millimeters, and then all of a sudden, brainstorm again, like flashing lights and headache pain, flashes of images, but this time there's something more to it. The images are things that you saw. So there's a battle at night during a huge storm, like rain coming down, lightning. So in the flashes of lightning, you saw this massive battle unfolding before you. You're in it. Like you could see it in front of you. You've got your axe, like you see other members of your tribe, and then you see like this onslaught of like soldiers. And then the brainstorm like shifts that image and it's gone. Once again, on the outside of his brain, all of you guys saw a little more success, like a couple millimeters, but then again, he screams, right? This time when you notice, like at the end of the screen, he has a bloody nose.
Oh,
like
no.
his nose is leaking.
Buddy.
And so the shaman takes a break and he's like, be at peace. And he puts some more salve around the area. And he waits. So you guys wait like 10, 15 minutes, right? And then he goes back in and he's like, put this between your teeth. And he gives you like a stick to basically put between your teeth. And then he goes in with the tweezers again. And he grabs it. He gives a little wiggle and starts pulling.
I cast guidance on him before he does it.
That's good, because I just rolled a 3. Let me see if that helps.
Shane's whole brain is just gonna
Just
come
like
right
every
out.
time he goes back in with the tweezers, I'm just gonna cast guidance on him.
Okay. So it helps, but not quite enough. He barely makes like a millimeter of a move. And again, huge brainstorm. Now this time though, you're not in a battle. You're drowning. You're in water. And there's waves crashing over you. Like you see flashes of lightning, but it's almost like you're underwater and you're looking up and you see like figures moving around on some shore. and there's like a flash of light, but you can't, you're like choking, and then you come out of it again.
Okay, that one was weird that time.
Again, he waits, he gives you like some rest. And this time he goes in, adding in Jordan's guidance, and it is a success. He pulls out like another 4 millimeters of this thing. He's looking at it and he's like, rest, my friend. We will give you a moment. Just don't move your head. He walks over to you, Areia, and like the rest of you, I'm assuming, are kind of over by Areia. And he whispers, he goes, I believe this is a metal bolt from a crossbow.
How long?
I do not know. Obviously, it must have broken off at some point.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't go all the way through his head, so it can only be so long.
What is interesting is that I would assume that if this metal bolt had broken off, that it would have been splintered similarly to wood. It would have been an uneven break, yes? He goes, yet the end of it is shorn, almost as if it were cut by a tool and not broken off.
Why would someone do that?
I do not know.
Could it be possible somebody who, who didn't have the ability to remove it would just cut that piece for him?
Yes. It would have had to have been someone else. I do not see even a person as strong as Bullstrong being capable of cutting the end off of a bolt sticking out of his own head. Given the amount of pain he's suffering when I move this even by small measures.
Well, maybe if this helps with his memories, he can remember how this happened. Or once it's out of his head, we can examine it further.
Yes. We will resume. He moves towards Bullstrong again, and he looks at you gently, Bullstrong, and he's like, "Are you ready, my son?"
Yeah, sure.
All right. He gives you your chewing stick, and then he prepares his tools again. Goes in, begins wiggling. He pulls out another couple millimeters and then brainstorm again. You see multiple different flashes. The first flash that you have is actually very calming. It's very soothing. It's you're sitting around a campfire at a hunter's camp, and it's you and a few other of your tribe members. You guys are eating meat. There's a nice warm campfire. Then there's more brainstorm and flash and pain. Then it goes to that battle again. But this time you're in the battle and you're surrounded, and you see several of those same brethren who you were hunting with dead on the ground. Slashed, pierced, full of arrows, and you're fighting against knights. Like, these are men who are smaller than you, but there are way more of them. And they're in armor, they have weapons and shields and helmets, and you're trying to fight your way off, and you're cut and you're in pain and you're wounded. Then brainstorm again, and it's you running, and like you look back and you see a bunch of them chasing you, and some of them are on horses, and they're chasing you and they're shooting arrows at you, and then brainstorm again.
I think I got shot by a guy on a horse.
So you guys hear him say this. He screamed again, a long, drawn-out scream. And then he takes the stick out of his mouth and he says what he just said.
Do you know who exactly?
Make an intelligence check at disadvantage. For those who don't know, intelligence is used to see if a character remembers something.
EJ, do you want me to intelligence check?
Boom. Oh. Oh.
6?
Oh.
At disadvantage.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh no.
Roll it again. Yeah, 6.
Okay, yeah, 6.
Yeah, you don't remember.
Yeah, okay.
So what do you remember about it? Was it like one guy? Was it a lot of guys? Was it in a town or?
I can't remember anything. I got shot by the guy from battle, I think. Maybe.
What battle?
Your guess is as good as mine. Something involving Goliaths and nightmen.
Like a knight? Do you remember anything about what kind of knight, what kind of armor?
No.
Would I know anything about this?
You have only what he tells you, which is what I told him from the flashes.
Okay.
And he's not able to remember details based on those flashes. The shaman nods once again, puts some more salve around the bleeding wound, blots up some of the blood, and then moves in closely again with the tweezers. Jordan, I'm assuming you're doing guidance?
Yeah, every time he goes back in, I cast it again.
Okay. Again, another success. He extracts 3 more millimeters of this thing, but not without some payment. And that payment is yet another storm within your skull. You hear, while the storm is happening of flashing lights and pain, you hear the sounds of battle. You hear the screams of dying men. You hear commands being issued. You see like weapons being swung at you. You see one of your brethren fighting 4 knights get struck down by a rider on a lance, like with a lance, and the rider's lance goes through his chest and impales him. And at that moment, you see on the armor an insignia that you recognize. And then the storm happens again, and you're at the edge of a river, and you're fighting 4 guys. And you see a rider come up, a different rider in armor. He has that insignia, and he's got a crossbow, and he shoots. And then everything goes black.
Well, I definitely think I got shot in the face by a guy on a horse, and I was by
Make another intelligence check with disadvantage.
Oh, that one might be decent.
disadvantage.
Well, yeah, so 13. Because you have a -1 to your intelligence. So 13. Not bad for Bullstrong.
Something about that last memory, as you're reflecting on it while your nose is bleeding and your head really hurts, like you're having a bad migraine, and you're sensitive to light, and you kind of want to throw up. But something clicks at you, and it's because that symbol that you saw on their armor was familiar. You recognize it from recently. But something also doesn't make sense still about that.
Do you want to
Does he tell us all this?
Yeah? Do you?
Yeah, so can I
Describe.
describe this?
Yeah.
Can I just make up the symbol?
No, you can describe the symbol to them, and then they can make a check.
Okay.
So I definitely think that the armored nightmen had some kind of crazy symbol on their chest. And I think maybe it was the red star symbol.
No, it
The
wasn't.
red stars aren't usually knights, though.
You describe the symbol to them. All of you can make a history check.
The only other knights with a symbol I know.
14.
I don't know if I can make the roll for it, but 14. I have
18.
14 too.
18.
Okay. As he begins to describe the symbol, it sounds like something very familiar to you guys. It sounds like a female figure who's standing, but with her arms up like this, almost like the outline of a trident. Like a female figure with her arms up like this, but it almost is in the shape of a trident. And you guys know that there's some similar symbolism used by the Mukadas Jang Chalar.
Hmm.
The shaman moves back in. Even with Jordan's guidance, it is not successful. You suffer incredible amounts of pain,
Ow.
and you actually vomit from the nausea while he's trying to pull this out. In this brainstorm of utter pain and vomiting, you recall seeing one of the men on horseback who was giving orders. It was a human. His facial features were kind of blurred, but definitely a human. And he was barking off orders, and men started running after you. This is like from the in the thick of the battle kind of moment. And then the brainstorm flashes again. And it's back to you at the edge of this river fighting the four guys. And they're all wearing armor. They all have this insignia, but two of them don't have helmets on, and they're also humans. And then the brainstorm happens again, and you're in the river, you're drowning. And it's dark, and then it's bright, and it's dark, and then it's bright. And then the brainstorm happens again, and you're back on the slab, and they're cleaning vomit up off of you.
Oh man, what is going on here?
You want to relay your memory to us?
So I think that some big head honcho guy yelled at a bunch of guys to come chase me, and because there was four of them, I can't handle four guys. I can maybe handle three guys, but not four guys. And they shot me, and I think I fell into a river and drowned, and then came back to life somehow, and now I'm a god or something, maybe.
So, do you relay your memories to us as you have, like, the descriptors? Basically, you tell us like what they look like.
Yeah, I saw just humanoid people, some kind of humans.
See?
Humans in armor. So is there some big old kingdom of human mans?
Well, the thing is about that we've already Magnus figured out that was the Jang Shalar symbol, and the problem is the Jang Shalar are not human knights. They are dragonborn. Captain Aki is a dragonborn, and the king of that kingdom is a dragonborn. But the only other Jang Shalar that me and Areia have come across, that also we saw at the beginning of our travels, that slaughtered a bunch of people, were human Jang Shalars, but they weren't of the same kind, they're basically imposters from what we figured out. So maybe we saw them slaughter at the base of the mountain. Maybe what happened to you was they tried to pass through here, and they went to do that, and they fought with your tribe or this area.
Ow. I maybe, I mean, I have just about as much to work with as you. I just remember like the feeling of drowning and a bunch of humans just circling around me.
So why are there imposter Jangshlar? Like,
Well, the only thing, because that's actually what like me and Areia were investigating before we even came across you guys, was because the Jangshlar, as you know, are a very righteous, paladin-like group, and they had basically slaughtered a group of merchants without even a battle or anything, and we had seen them travel, and they were also human. But the only real motive that we had come across with them is they had said when we talked to them that they were hired by someone, I think, like the other people that were trying, like the other people that want those stones. They were hired by someone to get a stone, to try to find a stone, and they were traveling. They either those merchants had it or they were just looking for it, but they had said they obtained one of them and turned that into their person. What exactly they do is unknown, or where they are currently is unknown. But it is possible that in trying to find the stones like we were, they could have fought with Bullstrong's area.
so the they that you're referring to, those are the human Jangshlar, right?
Yeah, they're not actually part of the kingdom. They just kind of wore the armor and symbol as a way, what we're assuming as a way to kind of blend in. But that's what we haven't really figured out yet. Because the
Okay.
kingdom said they didn't associate with them. And it's obvious that they weren't actually Jangshlar because they're human.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe we'll have
surely,
more information when we get this pike out of Bullstrong's head.
The shaman, after giving Bullstrong some time to recuperate, the shaman goes in again. And mind you, like each one of these breaks has been like 15 to 20 minutes. So this whole process has been going on for several hours. He goes in again, prepares you, gets his tweezers, and begins kind of slowly and carefully, steadily trying to extract it. He gets about 2 millimeters more out. And you have another massive, massive brainstorm. And you in this brainstorm, it goes from the chaos and all the sounds of the battle to like absolute peace and serenity and quiet. And you're looking up, you're floating, and you're looking up at the sky and the clouds and the sun. And then the brightness of the sun overtakes your eyes, and then you're back on the slab.
Oh, I floated downriver after getting shot in the head, and I was chilling in a really nice looking area, I think.
He moves in again after like 15 minutes. He moves in again. And this time he's pulling it out and making a lot of progress. You're in excruciating pain. And he gets to like a stopping point. There's something stopping him from pulling it out. He gets a firmer grip and he holds your head, and then he goes, boom, and he rips. First of all, a gout from all of you guys. You hear like Bullstrong's like, ah, ah, he's like biting on the stick, and he's like, ah, ah, ah. And then, and then he's dead. And your spell triggers, right? Like he's dead. First massive gout of blood. And it's not just blood, fresh blood. It's a mix of fresh blood and like gross, crusty, old, infected blood. Blah, just blah, and then pus and ooze. And the shaman's holding the end of this bolt, and you see it wasn't like a flush, nice thing. Like there was a tip, and he just ripped it out. Bullstrong, you have the most painful of the brainstorms as he's pulling this out. And then when he rips it out, everything goes black.
Well, for Death Ward, if it kills him, if it was because of like damage over time, then he would still be at 1 hit point. And if it was instantaneous, then he doesn't go under. So he's still conscious, I think.
He's still alive.
Okay.
So here's what happens. Blackness. Total darkness. And it's an absence of sound. And then slowly the light begins to restore. But you are not in the meadow on the slab with your friends and the shaman. You are on some kind of like a cot or bedroll inside of a building. And there's windows and like sunlight coming through, but everything's blurry. Your vision's completely blurry. And you see a figure like walking towards you slowly. But again, you can't see the figure because the sunlight from the windows behind the figure kind of obscures their face. It silhouettes them. But whoever it is has like a petite kind of, not petite, but like compared to a Goliath, like a petite kind of build with like long straight hair. And they reach down and like they have some kind of soothing, cool, like towel that they're using as a compress on you, and you smell like a perfume from them that's pleasant, and their touch is like comforting and reassuring. And then you could kind of hear their voice, but the voice is so muffled that you can't tell if it's the voice of a female or a male, but it's you hear the voice saying stuff to you like, and it's like in slow motion almost, because like your hearing's just as blurry as your vision. And then you feel your head kind of turned to the side, and you feel like the hand reaching around your ear, and you feel the thing in your head still in this vision. And you hear something go snip, like a loud snipping noise, and then it goes black again. And then you wake up slowly, and you are on the slab in the meadow surrounded by your friends. And one of the shaman's assistants has like a compress on your head, and you see like blood-soaked rags all over the place. And like the main shaman is casting like a healing spell on you, and the other backup shaman has like created like this bright effervescent light, and you see like swirling spirits around you that float down upon you, and then you feel less pain, and then they go back up, and like,
all right.
And it's very confusing, but after about a minute you feel better. And they tell you to stay there, stay laying down. The druid approaches you guys while Bullstrong is resting, and in his forceps that he has, in these tweezers, he's holding up this bolt. And he looks at you, and he like, you could see what he was saying, like the shaft is definitely metal, the end of it is definitely flush, like it was cut, like shorn off by a tool, not like splintered, like snapped off. But then the other end that had the actual head on it is kind of like a triangular, almost like diamond shaped arrowhead. But you could see that like he takes some of the water from the bucket and like pours it over this thing and takes like one of the rags and like scrubs it off. And he's holding it up, looking at it. And as he's looking at it, you guys notice something familiar, particularly you, Amity, and you, Areia. You notice something familiar about the head of this crossbow bolt. There appear to be like symbols or runes on it.
I can
Like
read it.
like the elven arrow?
Yes. Not just like. Exactly like.
I'll use Eyes of Rune Keeper then.
You see that using your abilities to read these runes, you see that this is a complex rune because it's a rune, but then written around the edge of the larger rune in tiny, tiny, tiny scrawl are multiple other runes that go around this diamond shape. And what perplexes you is that this is not a language that you've seen before in the same way as the arrowhead that you found earlier. It's clearly not a language that you are familiar with, that you've even seen before, and it also is ancient. The style is ancient.
None of us have seen this language before.
No, none of you have. But what you do see and what you're able to read because of your powerful invocation ability is that this rune has a very specific purpose. And it is a Colossus Slayer. It's for killing large creatures, like giants.
What the heck?
Tell the group, like, oh, this was supposed to kill him, basically.
Now, what you're able to decipher beyond that, though, the small etched runes that go around this Colossus Slayer larger rune seem to indicate a very specific mark, as in something that whoever would use something like this, it wouldn't just be used for anything. It would be used for a very specific mark. And the word, you were able to decipher the word based on the runes because of your ability, but you don't know its meaning. The word is Rogaru. R-O-G-A-R-U. Rogaru.
So I tell that to the
So because of your ability, you're able to read these three runes that make the sounds Rogaru, but you have no idea what that context means.
I just try to remember it until I go back, or I tell the rest, and then I just keep it so I can privately study for it later on.
Okay.
Yeah, guys, so it's like...
So,
yeah.
Bullstrong, after a while, the elders help you to your feet. They dress you in a robe, and another one like gathers all of your clothes and your stuff. And then they proceed back to the shaman's tent. And on the way back, the shaman explains to you that that Areia's magic saved Bullstrong from death, but now he must recuperate, and he will stay in the shaman's tent.
Is he going to be okay?
We will see if the ancestors guide him back to his lost soul. But in the meantime, he will stay with me and with the elders. We will watch over him. That is all. And then they continue. They go into the elders' tent. You guys mosey back to your tent area.
I don't like how vague that is. That doesn't make me feel good.
Areia, you're familiar with this. Again, like when an elder or shaman makes a statement like that and ends it with "that is all," like there's no discussion about it. It's not an open topic anymore. So you, just by instinct and social custom, you know that like there's nothing more to be said. They take Bullstrong and all of his stuff into their tent. Bullstrong, you were brought into the Shamans Tent, where a very fluffy, padded bedroll has been laid out to suit your size, with like a very nice, soft sheepskin like sheet over it. They lay you down carefully. They put fresh like compresses on your head with ointments and like wrap your head, and then they like calmly sit over you. They begin burning some like incense, and the shaman is like, "Rest, my friend. And in your dreams, seek the ancestors and ask them for guidance to your soul. That is all." Meanwhile, you guys get back to your tent. Standing outside of your tent is Sinjin, who you notice is standing and not seated in a meditative pose. And she looks up at you and she's like, "How did everything go? Is Bullstrong alive?"
Yes. Barely.
"And what did the shaman discover?"
This arrowhead, actually.
She looks inquisitively at the bolt, and she's like, "That is the same as the arrowhead that you found, is it not?"
I believe it has different runes to it.
"Yes, but the metal is the same.
Oh,
Look at it." So as you look at the arrowhead that you first found, and then this bolt, you see that the metal is the same, and that it is not exactly like iron. It has more of a dull gray and even a slightly greenish tint to it. You're not really sure what that is.
Is that like a nature check or something? It's like minerals or something?
I would say that I would buy like an Arcana thing. I guess nature in terms of minerals, but I would say like, that's a good question. Would it be Arcana? Would it be nature? I'll let you choose.
I have proficiency in Arcana, so I'm gonna do
Okay.
that one. 19.
So here's what you learn. You don't think that this is a metal that you're familiar with. It's definitely a metal. It's not stone. It's not wood. But it doesn't have properties that are similar to any of the known metals that you're familiar with. Furthermore, what you find interesting is that though it might have its closest similarity to iron, neither the arrowhead that you found nor this bolt that was sticking in his head has even a drop of rust on it. Not even a sliver, not even the slightest pockmark in the metal from rust. And the end that's been sticking out of his head for you're not really sure how long, that didn't have rust on it either. And that was definitely exposed to moisture and elements. So you guys have basically the whole day. I mean, it's only early afternoon. Is there anything specifically that you wanted to do?
I mean, we could do a lot of things.
Well, discuss.
What do y'all want to start with?
Is there anything like, what do you mean? What can do, because there's a very limited resources in this tribe. So
That's fair. We can't go far. There wouldn't be any sort of libraries or anything here, right?
we're in like
Most of the knowledge is passed down by oral tradition. These are a nomadic tribe. They do possess quite a bit of knowledge about certain things that maybe you wouldn't find in books. So that's all I'm going to throw out there for you to consider.
Okay.
it might be possible. We could ask, usually anytime we come across any intelligent figures, we ask them the same variety of questions about Borsu, about, we could ask them about the egg, we could ask them about a couple of things, but if somebody were to ask to speak to the elders about those things, then it would probably be Areia, because she has the best understanding of the culture.
Yes, but I think someone like Magnus might also possess the most knowledge about the things that we know.
We could both go.
Yeah, we
That
could.
might work if you
Another
guys
thing.
Hmm?
Bullstrong said in his brainstorm activity that he had some friends basically in the war. It was like a big group and stuff. So would you think his wife would know anything about it?
That is
Maybe.
true. I know that she did seem that she didn't want to hear too much about him or the situation, but I do think maybe if you would like to join me while they talk to the elders, we could go try to find her, and if it was something that would also help him return his memory and understand what happened, then I think it would be wise to just ask her about it. But do be cautious that she is feeling a lot of things right now, which I can understand, so you may want to be very careful with what you say and how you say it.
Arya's good at that.
Okay. So who's going where and talking to who and who?
Me and Amity will go to find Varna again.
Okay. And then what's Areia and Magnus going to do?
We're gonna go talk to some people in here that might, like elders, I suppose, that would know anything about anything that we've seen or something that Bullstrong said or about the metal or a lot of different things.
Yeah, just
Okay.
wherever the keepers of knowledge are in the tribe.
Well, there's kind of two general categories that you would know, Areia. The shaman and the elders tend to be kind of more the druids and healers, but there's also actual priestesses who there's a circle of priestesses who are clerics like you who serve Ayuk. So that could be another source of people to question. Okay, so I will do, let's go with Amity and Capella first. So you guys kind of wander into camp and you're looking around for Varna.
Yes.
Make a investigation check, either one or both.
17.
Good enough. After walking around for a while, you spot Varna. She is, it looks like she's like outside of her tent and there's like a wooden slab and she's cutting up meat and there's like a grill going with fire and charcoals and stuff and she's throwing chunks of meat on there. And there's different people like kind of in that vicinity, almost like a communal thing. Some people are prepping, other things too as well. There's some fish, there's some fruit that's been gathered. There's some old people, there's some kids running around, that kind of stuff. So you approach. She sees you and looks warily at you guys for a moment. She's like,
Reach out.
what is it? What's happened?
We just wanted to give you a little bit more information about a Bullstrong, the shaman was able to remove the foreign object, but he still has to rest before they know exactly what happened. I did thought you might want to know that he would have actually died from that removal if it was not for the spell that Areia had helped him with. He would have surely died. As well as he started regaining certain memories. He's resting now, but he had started to relay certain things to us about exactly what he remembered in flashes, but the only things he had started to describe was little things of some kind of battle. So we were wondering if you might know anything more about that.
She make an insight check.
10.
She seems to be very attentive to what you're saying, but also distracted by like being in the middle of stuff and there's people. And so you notice she like finishes cutting a chunk of meat and throws it on the grill, and then she flips a couple chunks off the grill and sets them down like on a platter, and then she beckons to like an older woman who gets up and kind of takes her place. And then there's like some kids running up to try to get food, and she swats at them. She wipes her hands off in a bowl of water and then like dries them on her vest, and then she walks over kind of away from the cooking area towards you. He will live.
They are not certain, but it is looking good for him.
And where is he now?
He has had to rest within the Shamans Tent.
I thank you for telling me this.
The real reason we're here is because we have a question for you, if you could answer.
She looks, you don't have to make an insight check. She looks suspiciously at you, and you're not sure if it's just blatant racism because you're a red-skinned tiefling, or if it's just you. But either way, like, she's not trying to hide her. She's like, go on.
So, as Capella said, he saw visions when he was getting the extraction out, and he told us about it, and I came to the conclusion that he had, people with him in like his escapades and all that. So I feel like if he was close to you, that he probably told you about his friends, military friends, anything of the sort from his past.
Capella, she turns to look at you, and she's like, does he always speak in enigmas like this?
I do have to apologize. You may know that some of his people are like that, but I promise his intentions are good. We really do. Just blatant, and I understand it is a sore subject, but to make him better and to really understand what happened, we are trying to piece together what he was before, because like I said, we don't really know anything about him before we met him. He didn't have those memories, and we kind of just assumed he was a lone traveler. But if you would be willing to share any of the information, being that you are the closest one to him, about what his role was here or what he might have been out doing. I don't know a lot about Goliath culture, unfortunately, but if there is some kind of, like, if he participated in a lot of the battling, because in his visions he had described being around other Goliaths and battling against a lot of knights and being chased down by them. And all I know about Goliath necessarily is I understand usually they fight other mountain mountainous things like trolls and such, but I wasn't sure if you might know who these people might have been or what he would be doing.
That was an excellent role play. Now, make a persuasion check.
13.
She seems to, again, have been very attentive to what you're saying. She looks back to Amity for a moment and she says, he told you that he remembered these things? That he remembered brothers and battles?
Yes.
Did he remember me?
He didn't say anything specific, only something traumatic.
Her eyeballs become very large and her lip begins to quiver. She's like, I don't know anything about his memories. That's all. And then she walks away.
I'm gonna pull
No,
pull
but
Amity
why?
over. I'm like, geez, this is the one time I wanted you to lie.
What a wench.
All right, smash cut over to Magnus and Areia. You walk over to the eastern side of the camp and you find the circle, Areia. And it's been a while, but you see a small cluster of tents that are a little bit different from the rest of the configuration of tents. These tents kind of form their own circle. And then you notice in the middle of that circle of smaller tents is one really tall wigwam, like pointed cone wigwam. And there's smoke coming out of the tent. And you see about 4 other female Goliaths, specifically female Goliaths, who are kind of in this circle. And you approach and some of them turn, and a couple of them you don't recognize, but a couple you do, that are your age or a little bit younger. And like one of them sees you and she's like, Areia, and she runs up and gives you a huge hug, like picks you up off the ground. And she's like, I had heard that you had returned.
Yes, we've returned fairly briefly, but we've returned with Bullstrong. And
I heard that he has sought the shaman.
yes,
Is it true what they say that he lost his soul?
I'm not sure. I was there performing clerical magic on him, so he's alive and he's okay for right now.
If you're referring to his memory loss, he does have amnesia. I'm Magnus, by the way.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Areia, come. The matron would see you. She takes your hand and leads you over to the wigwam. And when you get to the door, she like looks at you, Magnus, and just does like one of these.
Okay.
And she opens the tent flap, and you go in, Areia. Similar procedure to the shaman's tent. You remove your shoes. There's a bowl of water. You wash your hands, and then you kind of take a step in, and you part this skin, and you see the matron is there. She looks, even though it's only been a few years since you've left, she looks older somehow. Like her hair is more white, but it's still long, and she still kind of has the same decorum. She stands with us little bit unsteady, and you notice she has like a staff to help her stand up, and she smiles at you and comes over and takes your hand, and she's like, my child, it is good to see you strong and well.
You too. It's been such a long time, I feel like, but I'm glad to be back.
She looks at you for a moment, and she gestures to, there's like a circle of wooden stumps. She gestures to one of them, and they're very worn from being sat in. She also sits back down slowly, and basically she looks at you for a little while, and she says, you have returned, but your spirit is not what it once was. Tell me, what troubles you, child?
Can I be listening in on this?
Yes. You can hear this. It's not, I mean, it's not a huge, it's not like the Shamans Tent where it's like 20 feet in diameter. Like this is like a 10-foot teepee, you know?
Okay.
Every conversation that ever happens, you just the camera pans a little bit, and Magnus is just like, well, originally it was just troubling me that Bullstrong seemed not to remember anything that happened. And at first I thought he was simply ignoring me, or that he was still upset about things that had happened long ago. But then I realized that he did not have his memories. And then we came across the tribe again, and I knew that Varna might be here, but I was worried that she might not want to see me. And that she has not forgiven me yet.
Forgiveness comes with time often, my child. What happened with you and Bullstrong was a moment of passion in a time of your youth. You know that Varna has a stout heart, but inside she is sensitive. I have heard that Bullstrong is lost. Is it true? That he does not know his family?
No, he does not have most of his memories anymore.
And you do not know why this is?
Well, I assume from this morning that it might have something to do with the crossbow bolt that was in his head that we removed. He started to have memories of right before it happened, but he still has not shown any signs of remembering anything beyond that.
And what of this little friend who stands outside of the tent? Is he one of your traveling companions?
Yes, he is a companion who's been with us for a while. His name is Magnus. He's a very good, kind soul. He very curious, has a lot of questions for everyone.
Sister, bring in this boy and bring us some of the mead. Yes, matron? So the Goliath who greeted you guys opens the tent flap for you, Magnus, and you go in and you see the small like throw rug where there's moccasins and boots, and you see a bowl of water. What do you do?
I mean, I assume.
Yeah, you're smart enough. You have a high intelligence. You're like, oh, I don't want to be dumb. So you take off your boots, you set them down, you wash your hands, and then the matron beckons you. And just after you get all that done, the other priestess brings in a pitcher of mead and 3 mugs, and then nods and walks out.
Okay.
So you have questions as well.
Yes. We were wondering, just because everything that's happened with Bullstrong, they tried to pull the piece of metal out, and he regained some of his memories. And we wanted to ask you a few questions about the type of. Do you know anything about like types of metal or anything?
I could, if given time to study.
Okay. If you need to study such an arrow, because the arrow that we found 2 matching arrows with different runes on them, and we can figure out sort of what the runes mean, but not really, and we also can't figure out what type of metal it is, although we know it's metal and that it doesn't rust, which is really odd, but
Perhaps. What else do you question?
we wanted to know if you knew anything about. So when Bullstrong was getting his memories back, he had a vivid memory of a battle. It was him and a lot of So a lot of you people, as well as they were fighting knights, and we aren't aware of such a battle that might have occurred, and we wanted to know if you knew anything about it, or any of Bullstrong's friends, or...
Did he explain to you when this battle happened? Was it in his youth? Was it a battle that preceded his disappearance?
Yes, right?
He said he was with other Goliaths, but I don't know how long ago.
Make an insight check.
I'm good at that. It's the one Scott got. 23.
19.
You had already left on your journey when Bullstrong was given quite a important task himself.
An important task?
Our former chief was a wise leader who had guided us through many winters, but he was older and illness began to creep into his spirit. Some of the tribe felt that Bullstrong in time could become a chief, but others supported the war chief at the time. And it was then that the chief gave both of them very important tasks. But it was peculiar because he did not share with the tribe what those tasks were to be. All that we knew was that he dispatched these two leaders. Bullstrong would go with 8 hunters on this task that was appointed to him by the chief. And Iron Talon would go with 8 hunters on his own task.
What's his name?
Iron Talon.
Iron Talon. And so the chief, you said that he was ill. I'm assuming he passed.
He did.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
It is the way. But
So whatever happened to Iron Talon?
Bullstrong and his hunters never returned.
Oh.
Iron Talon returned, and he became the chief, and is now the chief.
Where would we find Iron Talon, and would we be able to speak with him?
You may, but I am not certain how he will take the return of Bullstrong.
I'm
He is
assuming he
gone.
didn't like Bullstrong?
He has been gone on the Great Hunt, but he will be returning anytime, likely within the next few days.
So he and Bullstrong obviously didn't get along then?
I am not certain that Bullstrong held any dislike for Iron Talon, but Iron Talon certainly considered Bullstrong a competitor in the tribe.
And can you speak? Oh, sorry.
When Bullstrong did not return, he was no longer an obstacle to Iron Talon's ascension. And no one challenged Iron Talon when he claimed leadership as the chief.
So can you speak to Iron Talon's character at all?
He is firm and unforgiving. But he has managed to lead our tribe well these past few years.
Is there anyone that's close to Iron Talon?
No.
No.
He is a somewhat distant and cold person, especially in our tribe.
And so Bullstrong and all of their hunters never came back?
They never returned.
Okay.
One time, the shaman asked Iron Talon what it was that the old chief had sent them to do. And Iron Talon said that if he were to ever ask again, his life would be forfeit. That is all.
Okay. I think that's probably all the questions we have, right?
Unless there's anything else that you would like to know.
I think that'll be about it for now. Thank you so much for your help.
Yes, when you have time, come back with those medals that you said. I will try to identify them.
Thank you very much for your help. I really appreciate it. It was great meeting you.
Thank you again.
She finishes her mead. You guys finish your mead. It's good. And then you leave. You all return to your tent at around the same time? Yes?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm going to assume that you guys in character share your respective things that you learned.
Yes.
And after doing so, do you have any discussion that you need to handle?
I mean, probably.
Carry on.
The essential thing is, number one, would it be morally objectable to lie to Varna and say that he started to remember her so that she could possibly give us more information? Because she is a hunter, so maybe she knew more about these hunts or Iron Talon or etc. But is that right? I mean, that's you guys, I don't know. Personally, I don't think it would be objectable, but and two, is it possible that this task, could Iron Talon have interfered in some way with this, in a way to kind of, bend his chances a little bit?
Iron Talon seems super shady. I don't like this guy, but we're gonna have to talk to him. And I don't know how we're gonna do that. But
isn't it possible he might even be afraid when he comes back of Bullstrong trying to challenge him again? And
maybe we shouldn't
especially
tell him.
if he interfered in some way, then Bullstrong might remember it, or remember the task, and clearly he doesn't want anybody to know the task because he freaked out about the shaman asking about it. So Bullstrong might be in danger here. If he knows exactly what's going on, he might rather want Bullstrong dead.
What if we could find Iron Talon before he comes back here and not tell him about Bullstrong?
I think he'll find out either way. I mean, Bullstrong is with the elders right now, and he's clearly in no position to be anywhere else. It's not like we could leave or move him when he's still the way that he is. I think our best bet is to see if he remembers, because Iron Talon is not the easiest person to talk to.
But it seems like he's probably behind some part of this, or at least that's what I'm getting.
So, Areia, I will give you some freebie stuff that you can share with the group. You remember Iron Talon. You know that he's the same age as Bullstrong, grew up in the tribe the same way. You remember him kind of having a little bit of a Napoleon complex, because he's not that tall. He's certainly not as tall as Bullstrong. And you remember him not even being physically as strong. You do remember that he was pretty sharp-witted. And he was pretty fast, but he's like a foot shorter than Bullstrong and not as strong. And you do, when you think of what the matron said about him being cold, you do recall that like he was always a little bit aloof and distant from people. That is all.
Okay. Yeah, so I tell everybody that. I say, yeah, he was not the nicest. He seemed to sort of resent Bullstrong for being stronger and taller. And I'm not saying that he couldn't have interfered, but I'm not sure. I was never close with him, so obviously like honor is a big thing in this tribe, and I don't know how much he conforms to that sense of honor. He might have interfered, but he might have not interfered.
I don't know. Oh,
agree
sorry.
That people, I don't know a lot about Goliaths, but what I do know is about power, and when people have this sense of needing to be respected and needing to have control, he's not going to respond well. I know that you want to think the best of people, especially Magnus, to be honest and to talk to him. And well, I would love to believe that he would want to see a member of his tribe, like family, get better and regain his memories. I just get this strong sense that something about him and this power, that he's going to feel that Bullstrong is a threat. So us asking him and confronting about it is only going to lead to bad things. If we really want to try to get any more information about this interaction, we have to go around him. If there's anybody else, like the hunters that traveled with him, if there was a way we could try to figure out who those were.
I think they died.
Well, the ones that traveled with Iron Talon, I don't know if any of them survived when he came back. Or if, again, that's Varna's the only one that I really know, or if Areia knows any other hunters from that same time that might have been there. Then something like that. Which, again, if we talk to Varna, we might just have to lie to her and say, Bullstrong has started to remember you, so we need that information to try to figure out and possibly tell her about the danger. Because if she's the same age as you guys, she might also know about Ironclaw.
But
That's
what happens when you lie to her and you say that Bullstrong remembers, and she talks to Bullstrong and he doesn't remember? I feel like she's already been through enough. I just don't think that lying to her anymore would be a good thing.
Very unstable.
I don't want to really lie to anybody, but the fact is that it's really kind of what I would consider a little bit humane for something. I don't know, because me and Amity tried to talk to her. We tried to be reasonable, but when we admitted that he still didn't remember her, she just locked up.
Well,
and we don't know that he doesn't remember her yet. Maybe when he wakes up he will, but...
Yes, so do you think it would not be better to be honest with her and say that his memories are still in the process of recovering?
I think we should wait before we do anything.
I agree.
Because
I think that I have not seen Iron Talon in years, and I was already gone before any of this happened, so I don't know. I can't say that Bullstrong would feel like a threat considering he's currently incapacitated with the elders after almost dying. But I don't know.
I mean, if you guys really think it would be better to just wait for him to come back, see one of his greatest rivals back in the village and regaining memory about something that he doesn't want anybody to know, then you can make that choice. But it's not just this little mystery on the line, it's Bullstrong's life.
Well, so I think that we should probably wait on talking to Varna just because we don't know enough yet, and it's kind of hard to go to her and say that, like, he does remember, he doesn't remember, when really we don't know much, and maybe over time he will remember. So I think maybe we should wait on that. But this Iron Talon guy, don't like him. Bad news. I know you're saying we probably shouldn't confront him, but I don't know what else we would do, because when he comes back to town, he's gonna figure out that Bullstrong is there, and, like, I'm an investigator. I got a bad feeling about this guy. He probably tried to kill Bullstrong, and when he comes back and figures out that Bullstrong is there, it's probably not going to be good. So if we can reach him before he comes back, because he's going to come back in 1 to 3 days, I believe. If we can reach him before he comes back and try and talk to him before he knows that Bullstrong is back, maybe we can get some information and stop something that could be really bad.
Well,
But the other thing that we have to consider is that they were rivals before he became the chief. But he's already the chief now, and Bullstrong clearly, at least for the time being, seems to have no desire to take that mantle for himself. So perhaps their rivalry was just linked to wanting to be the leader.
I mean, if he tried to kill Bullstrong,
Well, we don't know that he did.
But it seems likely. Like, obviously, innocent until proven guilty. I'm not going to be like, wow, he definitely killed this guy. But, like, there's a strong possibility that he tried to kill him. And usually, that kind of a grudge doesn't just, like, poof. You know what I mean?
We don't know enough about anything to really make any judgment calls on this man. There's really no to say whether what he would do or what he wouldn't do. I just know that rivalry is one thing and power is another. But I think that from this stance, no matter what kind of is, you don't know what power does to a person. I've seen before. Some people are good with it, and maybe he has just accepted that he's the leader and he could be good-hearted. But there's also a chance that he isn't. And usually the kind of people that are that competitive, not in a sportsman honorly way, but in a challenged, deceitful, inferior kind of way, that's not the kind of person who usually gets over it. And even it doesn't matter that to that kind of person whether Bullstrong is half dead, doesn't remember anything. I think he's still going to find him as a challenge. I don't want to confront him. I want to keep Bullstrong as far away from him as possible. But what we do now, I don't know. I just want to stay as far as that kind of person away from them as possible.
But the problem is we can't keep him away from him. He's currently like on the floor recovering, and it's going to take some time. And he's headed back to camp because he rules this place. So I just don't see a way. And too many people have seen
Areia,
him.
make a insight check.
Okay.
This is a weird insight usage, but
Okay.
you're having a flash of realization about something that someone's behavior indicated to you. So I'm going to say it's insight.
Okay. And I'm going to cast guidance on myself just because.
No.
No?
No guidance.
Damn. Okay. 19.
Okay, that's good enough. As you guys are discussing this, something occurs to you. It occurs to you, why did the shaman insist that Bullstrong would stay and recover in his tent? You know that Bullstrong physically was completely healed up. Why would the shaman insist on Bullstrong staying in his tent? And then it occurs to you, something occurs to you about the way that the shaman made that clear. and the finality with which he said it when he said that is all. And it occurs to you that the shaman's tent is sacred and no one can enter it unless they are invited, even the chief.
Yeah, so that's what I say to the group. I say he's with the shaman, like I've said, which means that even the most deceitful, lowly bastard of a man would never go in there unless they were invited, and they would never dare to injure somebody inside that tent. So there's no keeping him away from him, but in that tent he is safe.
Okay,
He is
so they're trying
hidden.
to protect them.
He's
Yes,
hidden.
which might indicate that Iron Talon, like you said, might not want to see him, but there's nothing he can do about him being here while he's in that tent.
I understand he's safe in the tent. I just worry about. I think if we want to keep Bullstrong's arrival as secret as possible, that might also be why the shaman has him in there, is so he wouldn't be instantly seen and known of, and once the chief arrives, because if
But
nobody says anything to him, the chief could come all back, and he wouldn't go in there, and unless the shamans tell him that he's back, they wouldn't know that.
the only problem is that almost everybody in this tribe right now knows that he's back, and
Yeah.
one of them are bound to let something slip.
Well, and you guys have figured that out within the last day, that like everybody knows now. Like the priestesses of Ayuk know, like families know, people, you know, the sham, like word gets around pretty quick, and you guys are fairly certain that everybody knows. Everybody who's in camp knows.
Yeah, and as you might have figured out, it's not really the best idea to lie to the chief, especially him. So some way or another, I know that he's going to figure it out. It's just a question of what do we do when he does.
Well, because especially like if they thought he was dead and he just comes back to life, that's kind of a big deal, and I'm sure people are going to be talking about it. So he's going to come and he's going to find out, and hopefully he should be safe in the tent. But
what happens when we need to leave? When he's fine and we have to move on, and he leaves the tent. What are
Then
we?
talk about it with
Well,
the
we can't
chief.
move on yet.
I mean, when he's better, you know, within the next couple days, when he recovers, we're going to leave, and he's going to leave the tent. But
we got some stuff to solve.
We're solving his background, yeah, and that's within the next couple days. But what exactly we're doing is unknown. But to figure out what happened to Bullstrong, I still would not ask the chief. Period. Because somebody had asked him even a much less conspicuous question, as you told us, and he was ready to kill them. So I think a random group of, you know, outsiders with a former tribe member coming to him and asking him all these questions about a scenario which he clearly does not want to be asked about is going to result in something bad.
So what do you guys want to do then?
That's why I wanted to ask other tribe members, anybody else but him. If there's any other hunters or anything, family members, if his family is alive, maybe just anybody but the chief.
So you guys have been discussing this for a while, and you hear the sounds of people getting ready for feast.
That's a rude.
Okay, so I mean that's a good idea. We could go talk to other hunters as soon as this guy gets back.
I think we should talk to them before. We should talk to as many people as we can before he returns to ask about it. But I think that we should be honest, because I think at this point, if we start lying, we're going to have to keep lying to a lot of people. And when they find out that we are lying, it really will not go well.
If you want to be honest, that's fine. That's why I asked the morality as a group. If that's what we're doing, then I am fine with that. So maybe what's best, we could go out to feast, and maybe during feast we could inquire with some other hunter groups about this. Just lighthearted, not like some big mystery, but just to see if we can gather a little bit of information.
As soon as Iron Talon gets back, though, I want to keep an eye on him.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Of
So
course.
you guys go out. It's similar to previous feasts. There's a good fire going. There's like just slabs of food everywhere. Everybody's celebrating. There's music, dancing, people talking, a lot of drinking celebrations. You see many of the elders are present, but not the shaman. And you see a variety of people, young, old, kids running around, teenagers. So you help yourselves, you're welcomed. You actually see like Varna, like at some point, like she's, eating, and there's like, she's in a circle of like women, and they're eating food. So what do you do?
How are we going to bring this up?
Well, I'm not going to go up to her because me and Amity tried to ask her about it.
Well, there's 200 other people in the center of the camp too. So
I would like to try to just kind of casually go around and ask, but I would want to see if Areia could try to direct more to Varna, and if she wants to be honest, but see if her relatability in that moment that they shared together might be able to get a little more closer to her.
Okay, so let me ask you this before you make an investigation check. What are you trying to go around and ask about?
I would like to ask about what they remembered, like the last things, if anybody remembered, because it seems like everyone's familiar with Bullstrong.
Mm-hmm.
What they might have remembered about the last things of Bullstrong before he disappeared, or the hunters that disappeared with him.
Okay. I'm going to have you make your investigation check.
Would it be shady to ask about, like, Iron Talon's hunters?
I will let you do that after I conclude Jennie's investigation.
18.
Okay.
18?
Yes.
Okay, so you're walking around and kind of, just interacting with people, chatting with people, and you meet a couple of the younger Goliaths, like teens, like late teens, and they seem like enthralled with you, like they've never seen somebody like you. So they immediately they're like, you travel with Bullstrong, don't you? You're one of the visitors. And they're like, what is it like outside of the vast, and what are cities like? And like they're just full of questions. But as you're chatting them up, you kind of also ask your own questions, and you notice that like when you start to kind of dig into like, so what was Bullstrong like? Because we only know him from last couple of years, and you start to kind of dig into like what it was like. You notice that some of them are like a little cautious, and you also notice something very specific with your successful investigation check. None of them say his name, but they respond to your questions. But they say things like, he was a large and strong hunter and one of the best fighters in the tribe. And the chief sent him on a quest. Yeah. But he and the hunters that he went with never returned. Yeah. Yeah. And then the old chief died and Iron Talon became chief. Yes. He is our chief now. Yes.
Would it be too much of a push to ask them in this kind of tone, just is there something wrong with the question? Is there some reason why he can't be referred to directly?
They say that he is lost.
What
They say that he lost his soul. Is it true? That he doesn't know himself?
He can't quite remember, but I'm not sure what
Does he know himself?
he.
And then some of the other ones like cut you off and they're like, yes, the elders said that his soul is lost. He doesn't know himself. Hell yeah. And then like one of the girls is like, for you it would be different. For us, it is to not know yourself or to lose your soul. It is as if you were a ghost. That is why we don't speak his name. The elders may speak it because they seek to guide him back to his soul. His body is here, is it not?
Yes.
But his soul is lost. So the elders, they can speak his name because they will guide him back to his soul. And if they cannot, then his body must burn and be sacrificed to Ayuk. And then they all nod very matter-of-factly, as if like they were just saying that like toast is good with butter. Like it's like just a fact. They're like, yes. And they're like, no, tell us more about cities. So then they bother you for like 20 more minutes. All right. Meanwhile, Magnus, you wanted to ask people some things?
Yeah, but points of clarification.
You're not there.
Oh, so I wouldn't know. Dang it. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask in the most subtle way possible about like who Iron Talon's hunters were in that hole. Okay.
So go ahead and make an investigation check.
Okay. That's a 25.
Ooh. All right, so here's what happens. Similarly to Jennie, as you kind of walk around and socialize, you find that people are fascinated with you. And it's not that they haven't seen elves before, but like you're small. And so they kind of like pressing on your head and like petting your hair and just like they go up to you and like feel your hair and like they squeeze your lack of muscles and they're like, isn't it funny? He's like a twig. And then they ask you questions about what it's like in that what they refer to as the lowlands. And then they like ask you questions about where you've been and what other fancy races have you seen and have you ever fought a dragon and things like that. But as you're interacting with them and talking with them, you kind of sprinkle in your own questions about, you know, Bullstrong and the quest. When you get to the topic of Iron Talon and the quest, they basically reiterate what you've already heard, and that is Iron Talon and Bullstrong were sent on quests by the old chief, and no one knew what those quests were. But what you were able to glimmer from this is that Bullstrong and his hunters did not return. This is known. Iron Talon and his hunters did return.
So can I get any names on?
But this is what you're able to find out. When they returned, they went to the chief and met with the chief and only the chief. And the chief sent them to see the oracle on White Peak, which is where you know that they've made references to this before. And that when they went up to see the oracle, they were gone for a week. And when they returned, only Iron Talon returned. And he was different. They say that whatever the oracle revealed, it imparted the power of Ayuk upon him because he was larger and stronger and somehow different.
I don't like that. Okay. That's that's about it, I think, then.
Okay, Amity and Areia, what do you choose to do at the feast? Or do you choose not to do anything?
I'll go mingle a little just to make myself look normal with them.
Okay. You do. You have a high enough charisma. You mingle. They give you the same kind of like fascination at you being different. And they're like, you know, can you do tricks? And like they want you to like entertain them, and you know. Areia, what do you do?
I'm going to stay in a spot where I can see Varna and sort of see if I can read her demeanor at all, but I don't really want to go up and talk to her. I just want to like stay back.
Okay, you do for quite a while. You should make a, I guess, an insight roll, since you're not like investigating, you're more just like kind of reading her interactions with other people.
21.
You kind of watch her for a while. Like you're sitting off eating like, you know, a meat stick and something, drinking a meat, and you're just kind of like watching. And as I described, she's sitting with like a circle of people, old, young, there's kids running around. At a certain point, you notice like a small boy like run over and kind of like jump onto her lap, and she like shoos him off like by the head and just like sets him down and like playfully like holds him down and tickles him with one hand while she's eating like a skewer of meat with the other, and he's like laughing and stuff, and then she lets him go and he starts to get up, and then she pins him down again with her hand and tickles him more, and then he gets up and runs off and plays with other kids.
Okay.
You look like you're pretty sure he's like 5 or 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You see him with like other kids and he looks about the same size.
Okay. I'll go over to them.
Okay.
And I will just ask if there's any available seat for me to join them.
You walk up, and you get there and you notice like one of them like sees you and does like and like looks at Varna and then like looks back at you, and Varna like turns around and sees you, and you greet them, and Varna nods, and like one of them like gets up from like a wooden stump and like walks out, and Varna gestures to the stump for you.
Okay. I will just sit and say to Varna, I'll say quietly to her, I know my friends told me that they met with you today, but just for one night, I would not like to ask you any more questions about your past, and rather I would just like to ask you about yourself and about how you've been and about the things that you've been doing.
She nods. She's like, I live. I serve the tribe. I don't hunt as much as I used to, but I can still hunt. I have not found love since Bullstrong. And now I have obligations that keep me here with the tribe. Wherever the tribe goes, I will go. The tribe is my family.
What are those obligations that you have?
You see her eyes like dart around. If I tell you, you will not speak of it to him?
Of course not. If that is what you wish, I will never betray your trust like that.
Bullstrong has a son.
I see.
When the chief chose him to go on a quest, I was already pregnant with his child, and I hadn't told him yet. I begged him not to go, but he had to go. He was obligated. And he was gone for many months. And I hoped that he would return in time to be there when I gave birth to his son, but he didn't. I felt like I could wait no more, and the time had come. And then on top of everything, there was a terrible storm. Lightning and thunder raging across the skies. And that is when my son was born, without his father being there. And the matron birthed him. She said he was large like his father, even as a baby. Even now, he is larger, much larger than any child his age. He's strong like his father. His name is Storm Mountain. Born during the storm and strong like a mountain.
Well,
Bullstrong doesn't know. He wouldn't know. He was gone when I gave birth to the child. But what does that matter if he doesn't even remember me, his wife?
well, I can't even begin to express how sorry I am. But I don't wish to lie to you, but what I can say is that it has only been one day, and I feel like now that we've sort of healed him, there's a chance he might regain his memory. So if the most I can ask of you is to just hold out a little longer to see if he remembers. Because if he does not remember you, then he probably won't remember anything else, because I know how important you were.
Remember your vow. You will not tell him he is a son.
Of course.
She nods. And then you see that same boy who had run over before now run back up again and like jump onto her, and she like kind of falls back and grabs him. And you see now that you're a little closer that he's not like a 5-year-old. He's like a toddler. He's like 2.5, but he's as tall and strong as a 5-year-old. And she picks him up and she kind of holds him and wrestles a little bit with him, and then she looks at you and smiles, but then she gets up and she walks off towards her tent. Smash cut. Speaking of tents, Bullstrong, you are in the Shamans Tent. After the excruciating pain that you suffered, you were healed, but you were exhausted, like literally exhausted from the pain and from dying and coming back. So you sleep. Hours go by. You're not even sure how long time has passed, but you know it's nighttime because it's dark inside of the tent. Your eyes kind of open up and you see the shaman, and there's like a little light that he's using, and the shaman is like reading through a book, and he looks over at you almost as if he noticed that you were waking up, and he stands up and walks over to you, and He's standing over you and he's like, how are you feeling, my son? You rested for many hours. Do you still have pain in your head?
I think I feel a lot better than I did earlier.
You are likely hungry. I will have food brought to you. Keep still and lay down and rest. And he goes over to the tent and he's like, bring us a bowl of food. And a few moments later, a younger member of the tribe brings in a bowl, and the shaman sits down. He pulls up like a wooden log and sits down next to you and hands you like a wooden spoon in this bowl. He's like, sit up slowly and carefully, friend. Do not sit up too fast, and eat slowly. You might be hungry, but take your time. Your body has been through many things today. So you follow his directions, but you're like, as you're eating, it's one of those things where you're eating and you're like extraordinarily hungry. So you eat the bowl, you polish it off. And he's like, lie down and rest. I will not leave. I will be here. He walks back over, sits down, and has his light, his magical light that he showed you before, but he has kind of a flap of leather over it, so it's not blinding you, but he's able to use it, and you see him like reading a book. And you know, by the way, that like the whole reading thing is not common within your tribe. Usually only like elders and shaman are capable of that. After that delicious bowl of food, you're in like a nice place where you're like blissfully full and tired. You fall back asleep again. Again, you wake up, your vision's a little bit blurry. You see the light that the shaman was using to read is much brighter. And he stands and walks over to you, and he's silhouetted by the bright light behind him. But it's weird because like your vision's still blurry, and the shaman's not in his normal body. He's like a thinner, kind of skinnier body with long, straight blonde hair. And he reaches down to you and he feels your head. And he says, I think you're doing better, my friend. You will be well soon. And as he stands back up, your eyes focus and you see that it's not the shaman. It's a blonde elf male with long blonde hair who is well dressed. And that is where we'll end this episode of the Medusas.
Oh my
Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing and liking. And we'll see you next week, everybody. Have a good weekend. Peace out. We love you. Take us away, Dave.
Magnus,